Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 104 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we are going to work on producing wood pellets and wood bricks, which is going to be the new clean fuel for our base. Enjoy! So to make pellets from green algae, we're going to need 34 assembling machines. Since we're going to be building quite a few assembling machines, especially going forward, let's put this on the bus, so we don't have to keep handcrafting these machines anymore. Fortunately, making assembling machines is a little different than the rest of the machines because they require electric motors and also single-cylinder engines. So we should probably start a new line here. Let's just put it right here, why not? So we'll probably have two of them. Actually, I guess we need to have a third one. The first one making burner assemblers, the second one making tier 1, third one making tier 2. Let's just find out how many inserters we're going to need for all of this. So let's say one machine, coming from one machine, coming from one machine. So it looks like it's yellows for this. Let's set these to the proper size. And we're going to need some complicated inputs here. And that should be the setup. Now we need to figure out where to put it. We'll have to worry about dodging that power pole. This method of combining belts is not quite as straight as far as up and down is concerned, but it takes up less space down here, and it's also less belts going up and down compared to this, where there's lots of belts going up and down and then they combine here, so this is kind of busy. Doing it in this way because it takes up less space and leaves more room for these electric power poles. It's kind of the thought process there. But we hook up that. So then when we hook everything up, the system should run. Looks like that one's staying green. Looks like this one's staying green. Looks like they're all green. And very quickly producing assembling machines. Awesome. Just like that, we're full. Boom, I will take them. And then it's going to fill up again. So back to making pellets. We needed 33.4 of these. Now that we're right here, we could just kind of place them down and see what they're going to look like. However, we might want to build this based on belts. Okay, I was thinking it was, we had these 6 red belts, but that's actually algae belts. That we actually have these 6 yellow belts of output. We just need to set a logic here to not run these while we're filling up on pellets. And that's going to be 2.5 red belts, so they can combine in pairs. But because we'll have 3 red belts here, let's just divide the number of machines here by 3, which is going to be like 11.1 or something like that. So let's just do 12 machines, so it's an even number. So 3 groups of 12 machines. So we'll have the inputs there, the outputs here, and there's 4, so we wanted 8, 12 of them. Then we wanted 2 more sets, so like this and this. Can help the belts a little bit by doing the easy stuff like dragging belts around. Out of inserters. Luckily, I know where there's more. This is our setup. It's going to need some lights. Let's say right there, right there, right there. That's the pellets that we need for algae. But what about pellets for wood? Well, it's a smaller, simpler setup. We just have a full red belt coming in. And then we'll need, let's say, 14 machines for an output. So let's grab that, put it off to the side here, and say this one's for wood. But we need 14, not 12. So we'll copy this top part, put it down here, get rid of the extra light. And it looks like there should be a light right there. And this will be the setup for our tree farm. Let's just grab each individual setup. Now that we know what the setups are, we could probably just use the crawler for this. This might get in the way if this stuff has to expand, but it's also nice and compact and kind of lines up with the rest of this. So I kind of want to use it. We're going to need some belts to hook it up and also a buffer warehouse. Let's use a storehouse. Looks like I placed this the wrong direction. Because we actually wanted the belts to go this way. So we need some kind of buffer in here, so let's place this. Actually, let's place it one over. There we go. Now we need the input for each side. We don't need to use a splitter or anything there. We can just kind of go into itself. Let's see. We might have to do a little zigzag here. So we have a belt going there. And then a belt going there. Oops, it's going the wrong way. Then we need to set some logic to this. We want the storehouse to have some kind of buffer. Let's say 10,000. So the way this works is we're going to connect each one of these inserters. And tell them they're only allowed to be on if cellulose fiber is greater than 10,000. Now the fiber's slowly making its way through. Let's just disable these for now so the process doesn't run. And we need to copy these settings over. So we can just plop, plop, plop. No sound effect, but it's doing stuff. We need to send this signal between all these different setups. So there we go. Now all of the cellulose output is going through here because we have a large buffer we need to create. So hooking this up, we're not really going to see much because there's very little to work with here. But let's just see if the settings are correct. They seem to be. So all of that is going to create 12.5 per second. And we'll want to run a belt up. And this will take a long while to fill up, but that's okay. And then I think we decided we would just use a belt to run this all the way up here. And I don't know where everything would fit, but I like straight belts, and we have tons of space to work up here. Plus, I mean, we can just move this wall up. That, I'm not sure how the wall is going to move, but this is a pretty narrow place here, so we probably want to explore to see how far that goes, and then put a wall up right at the edge. And then maybe go to the left here and see if this narrows down. Like, is this a sea, or is it like an ocean? So we'll have to see what happens over there, but we have tons of space. So there's no point in like squishing everything as close as we can to coal. So, in the effort to have straight belts, let's just run it straight up there. And we're going to have to clear out some trees and whatnot to get there. Okay. So, the question is, how are we going to get the other pellets here? The pellets from trees. 5 per second. How many drones would that actually be? 400 divided by 5. It's actually not that bad. So it would send out a drone every 1 1/3 minutes. That's actually not that bad. I think running a train up here would just be kind of overkill. Especially because this is very near a drone path already. And it wouldn't really be that much effort to continue it down a little bit. Really, this track is temporary. This is much more permanent right here. So as more processes get added to the eastern side here, a lot of this western side stuff will be removed and outdated. For example, we're delivering coal here because we need it to handle coal processing. But if we move coal processing up here, we don't need the coal train. And when we've got our full ore sorting setup complete to the east, we won't need stereotype either. Which means these trains aren't necessary anymore, and that track isn't necessary anymore. And we can move coal by drone for the uses that we need. And same with stereotypes, so really this entire track's going to be replaced. Do we really want to commit to continuing to use it when it's about to be outdated and removed compared to just running some drones around? So we have a game plan. Let's do some drones. I wonder if we need any landfill. Probably not. I think we determined that this setup's actually very small. So it could probably just slice in right here and then connect it up to the drone network, and then the drones will go along the path. So all we need is some drone road. I always think I need more than I need, but we'll just grab 1,000, grab everything that's in this warehouse here. See if that is enough. Whoops. But we're at the point where not producing that kind of pipe anymore, so I don't know if you're particularly OCD about all these pipes being different colors. It bothers me a little bit, but I'm not about to go through the entire factory replacing all of those just because the color is different. So they'll get replaced one at a time every time I run over them with the vehicle. So here's a setup for wood. Let's go in this direction here. Probably should put this warehouse in line. Get a little more consistent across the factory. Let's put that there. It's interesting how this is all red, even though according to the calculations it shouldn't be. But must have had some kind of throughput problems. So let's get rid of that. Ah yes, but we needed to make this into the cellulose fiber as well. So this setup's actually a little bigger than that. So we need 20 machines going into this. So let's grab like 10 of them. Something like this. Oh, it might work. Right here. So we need to set this up for cellulose fiber. So we need to kind of change this a bit, where it's yellow on the input here. That'll be the output from down here. So we can kind of come there, up through here, and then combine to make the pellets. It's a little more squished than I'd like it to be, but I don't want to move all this just for that. So let's say it's good enough. And then we need to make a supply depot. And let's find the blueprint for the limited supply depot. Pretty much want every single supply depot to be like this, where it won't send a drone until it's actually full, just to keep drones from making pointless trips back and forth. Let's say right there. And we need to set this up for pallets. There we go. And what kind of inserters do we need for that? Appears like one stack inserter will be all that we need. So stack inserter in. Like that. Okay, we need some logic to control this. Let's make a warehouse, because we do actually cut trees down a lot, and as a result, can find ourselves needing a lot of empty space to put trees down. So plop this right here. Have the output go up there. And let's just make this red because it was before. This will always run. This needs to have some level of priority. So let's say there has to be at least 200 wood, or 2,000 wood, for this to turn on. But we don't want to fill it up needlessly. So this will turn on as long as wood is under 4,000. That will leave the rest of the warehouse available for dumping trees into as a result of chopping them down. So let's see if this works. Should fill up to 2,000. I guess I can help it by putting in the spare wood we have. So there we go. Looking pretty good. That's looking pretty good as well. We do want to set a limit on this stack inserter so it's not just filling the supply depot up constantly. So let's say wood pellets. Well, how many drones would we send? I was thinking of sending 10 drones. And the drone holds 400 with our upgrade. So let's say 4,000. It'll fill up to 4,000. Make sure that it's catching up. It seems to be. We got mostly green here. Seems like it is spending some time waiting. So let's improve this to red. We'll just leave that combining into red. That should just help give the inserters a little bit more time. Yeah, they're still falling behind a little bit, but mostly good. It actually picked up the wood pellets. So where's wood pellets actually going then? I'm kind of surprised. Oh, as a fuel type here. Well, that's definitely outdated and wrong. So that is bad. We don't really need to have any of this in here anymore. And in fact, it'll be replaced with wood blocks before too long. This is here as a stopgap measure just because our belt had several different kinds of fuel on it. I don't think that's any longer the case. I think it's all just charcoal now. Mostly, well, kind of, because you can see there's still some leftover bits in there, but that'll get cleaned up when we move the origin of the drones. More disaster. Thanks for helping. Okay. This is about where we wanted to build the road. Let's plop the excavator down and do the click and drag method of making road. Probably want to clear some of this out. We need to request wooden pellets. We'll put our 10 drones in there. And now we need another buffer warehouse. Let's do a storehouse. So a stack inserter was good enough to go in, so it should be good enough to go out. And that goes in each one. However, we want some logic here. We determined that pellets from trees are more desirable than pellets from algae. So actually, you should probably space this out by 1 here, just so there's more room for this all to fit. Since trees are more desirable, we'll say this has to be pellets under 4,000 to turn on. And this is less desirable, so we'll do pellets under 2,000. It has to turn on. So this warehouse should fill up to about 4,000 pellets. Now we could sort this in 2 different ways. One, we can make the things that need pellets next to pellets. So we need to make CO2 from pellets, we need to make wooden blocks from pellets, and we need to make charcoal from pellets. So we can either make them near pellets or make them near their associated things. So instead of making CO2 near pellets, we could make it near coal, where all the CO2 things are together. I kind of like the idea of them being sorted based on the process as opposed to the location of the storehouses. I feel like it'll just create a more clean and more easily understandable setup. Well, one thing we know for sure that we're going to need is fuel blocks. So we can make this in close proximity. So do we actually calculate making fuel blocks? Don't think so. Okay, well, how many fuel blocks do we need? Not many, really. This is a efficient source of fuel for the factory. Now, we really haven't been running coal for the purposes of making power for a long time. But if we did, we'd want that to happen after we used up all of our wood output. So we definitely still want to make all of our output into wood if possible. Well, all of it together will produce that 17.5 wooden pellets, so we can kind of co-opt this a bit. Set this based on the input of all of those pellets, and that'll create 8.8 wood bricks per second, which is actually a lot of energy. So we can do 8.8 times 20, 176 megawatts, just based on wood bricks alone. So that is a very efficient output. And that's more than enough we need for our entire factory as far as fuel burning is concerned. I don't think wood bricks are any more or less efficient than burning any other wood product. Okay, well, 6 assembling machines. Let's just grab this and modify it, because it's probably going to be very similar to this. Yeah, those drones were definitely plenty fast for this. Where this one inserter is falling behind. It will eventually catch up. But we have our input. Looks like it's set to this side. And then our output, which is right there. That's pretty good. So we can just kind of pick it up. Have the output go out. And there's some very dense trees right there. Let's set this to wood bricks. Then we need a supply depot. I don't think we necessarily need any more storage warehouses because it kind of already is. A request depot is a storage warehouse in its own way. So since none of these bricks are going to go anywhere by belt in this situation, because the only thing wood bricks are used for is fuel, it's kind of unique in that sense. Where you look at wood bricks, burned in, but it has no use. So this is only a fuel, and that's it. So we'll just send it straight into a supply depot to get sent where it needs to go. And probably want to have a condition for this. So we'll set this to wood bricks. Have to be at least 400 for it to run. And this inserter, let's say wood bricks has to be under 2,000. That's a pretty healthy amount of fuel. And with that, this should work. Now we do need to think about the priority of output when it comes to these pellets. Because pellets are also going to go into making carbon and CO2. So between carbon, CO2, and wood bricks, what's the most important thing? Probably the wood bricks, because they're going to be our factory's fuel source. So it'd be kind of bad if we ran out of it. Whereas with CO2 and carbon, we have other sources of making that in the event that wood can't keep up. So since wood is the most desirable output, it means it should always stay on. So we don't need to have any logic connected to the output for these pellets going into these brick machines here. Looks like that's already filled up, which is good news. And there go our wood bricks. Some of these are turning red very briefly. Perhaps these inserters are not enough. Ah, because the ingredient is actually 17.5, which is red. So let's have a second inserter connected here using the same logic. Looking good, building up bricks. And that's a very dense amount of fuel. They stack in units of 200, which is quite good. Compare this to enriched fuel block, where although they have 50 megajoules, they only stack in units of 200, which is much less dense. So wooden bricks are an extremely dense way of storing fuel and moving fuel. It's just very efficient for the drones to do it this way. Okay, well now that we have our wooden bricks, we can deliver those bricks to anything that might need it. So probably want to follow the road here and look for any situation where fuel is being delivered and change that fuel as necessary. Let's see, we will want to deliver some wood blocks here to get burned. Let's have a request depot requesting wood bricks. I'm not sure exactly how much we would need, since this is the factory's energy source. We probably should put quite a few drones in there. So we'll request, how about 5, since the fuel type is so dense. But we can get rid of this, because we're not actually going to be burning charcoal anymore. And we can kind of clean this up as well. In fact, this output can just go to get burned on this side. So we don't even need to have kind of any of this going on. So there needs to be no enabled condition here. They can just always be on and always dump the necessary fuel. I don't think that will cause any problems, because this dumps its fuel in big chunks. And I don't think we need anywhere near 40 drones for this either. 10 drones would always be fine. Even that's probably a bit much, but we'll go with that. So all of the fuel blocks will go down the normal way to get burned. We can just kind of toss these in here and let them go along their way. And the wooden bricks can just get burned the normal way. Now I don't think this really needs to be red anymore, because of how dense these fuel types are. And then it'll just deliver the fuel there. And because this doesn't really ever run, it's going to kind of have these other blocks in there, but that's okay. So it looks like it's requesting giant runs of them at a time. Can probably make this a lot simpler. Save us having to have this wire running around. I don't know if this pattern's going to fit here. It might, if some of this stuff gets moved out of the way. And just tell this to run if it's got a drone stack, which is 40 for one drone inside. Then it's got this buffer warehouse, but I don't think we really need the buffer warehouse for anything. It's been there, but I think it's kind of redundant. So we can get rid of it. Because this is just going to fill it up as much as it can, because any fuel blocks that get in here need to be burned. So hopefully that works a little better. Well, it got the delivery of wood blocks, which is nice. Kind of got a full inventory of stuff here, especially picking up this whole belt and all these items. Gonna fill up it even more. But another thing we can move up there are these alien artifacts, which when we have an excessive amount, we want to burn. So we're slowly going to be removing a lot of these things here, but we don't need to have carbon going in there. And we don't need to have charcoal going in there. I'll just leave this zigzag because all of this is going to be replaced before too long, so I'll just leave this in here as it is. And now we can pick this whole belt up. Let's put a strong box in here. Put this like right here. And do a splitter. And have the splitter have an input priority out of the strong box. So basically anything we want to burn, we can just throw into this strong box here, and assuming these are even running at all, which they're not, but if they were running, they would burn them off. So we can put the artifacts in there and know that they will be burned eventually. Now we could force them to be burned by dropping them off in this strong box right here, because as it gets filled up with these blocks, it'll get burned, but I don't know if we want to be force burning anything right now. I don't think that's really necessary. So this is good enough as is. Okay, let's go down the line and look for any other sources of fuel. Well, actually, it kind of goes nuts and goes in here, where one source of fuel is going to the east here, and then it goes to the left, and then down, gets burned off there, and that's basically it. So as far as the most convenient place to deliver those blocks to get burned as a fuel is probably right here, because then we can just send it straight through and let it go down its way, and eventually it's all going to be replaced, and that belt's going to kind of be unnecessary, because when this is replaced and this is replaced, we won't need those fuel blocks anymore, and they won't need to be here. But so the factory can keep running for now, let's put a request depot right here. It looks like we need some long-handed inserters here. Or we could just do a long underground, I suppose. I think it'll reach. There we go. No, there's no room for any of these plastic bars. Well, in that case, I probably should have circuit network on here and have this fill up to, let's say 50,000. Just to leave a little bit of room in there to drop off any errant plastic bars. But I guess we can... I was hoping we could dump them in there, but I guess we can't. Well, there you go. Make some pipes. So we need to request those fuel blocks. Just one ought to be fine. We'll have 2 inserters on each side. And then there's the fuel. Let's see. Kind of just connect that there. And I'm not going to pick up all of this extra fuel that's in here, because it doesn't really matter what the fuel type is. It'll get burned eventually. So, just draw a straight line. Except when we get to this part, we're no longer going to be delivering fuel through all of this nastiness. So that's not necessary. But we need to move the fuel belt up to match this other one. And now it's going in the right direction. We'll come down here and go where it needs to go for the purposes of fuel. Which means a lot of this is no longer necessary. Of course, we're going to have full inventory of junk while we do this. And we'll just connect that directly just to be easy and quick about it. Okay, let's follow along and see if fuel is being delivered anywhere else. Well, it is being picked up here for the purposes of backwards delivery. But we definitely don't need it anymore. We had a fuel delivery down here, but it's already here. So all we need to do is set that to wood and put a single drone in there, and that will get what we need delivered. See, we've got a fuel delivery here, but that's for train, so that needs to stay as fuel block. But right here, this could be set for wooden blocks. It's nice and easy to switch those around. Can do the same for this. Luckily that wasn't too much of a mess. Coal needs to be coal here. And that's everything. So there we go. We have retrofitted the factory to now run on wooden blocks. And that's the end of this episode. On the next one, we are going to work on expanding our coke production for our new factory's needs. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.